We have watched the ruins of Babylon fill with jackals. We have seen the tyrant dragged down to the depths of Sheol, where the ghosts of fallen kings rise to meet him in mockery. But Isaiah isn't finished. The focus shifts now from the distant future fall of Babylon to the immediate, terrifying shadow of the present, Assyria. This transition is a prophetic burden, a heavy oracle connecting back to the weight of the visions in the previous chapter. In biblical geography, Assyria is the root of what we call the Axis of the North, spanning modern-day Iraq, Syria, and Iran. In Isaiah's time, they were the superpower that had already swallowed the 10 northern tribes and was now breathing down the neck of Jerusalem. Today, as we open the news and see the instability spreading through the Syrian and Iranian power structures, we realize we aren't just reading ancient history. We are reading a tactical update on a spiritual war that is thousands of years old. The verdict begins with a divine oath in verse 24.
The Lord of hosts has sworn, saying, Surely as I have planned it, so shall it be, and as I have purposed it, so shall it stand.
We are entering a divine courtroom. This is the first stage of the legal process, the oath. In ancient law, a sworn declaration by a king meant the case was finished. There was no appeal. By using this language, Isaiah tells us that the fate of the empire is no longer conditional. It is cosmically fixed. There is a critical distinction here between the plan and the purpose. Planning is the architecture, the technical layout of how historical events unfold. Purposing is the intention, the why behind the how. Isaiah reveals that the fall of the tyrant is a permanent defeat of the spirit of domination. When Sennacherib stood outside Jerusalem in 701 BCE with 185,000 soldiers, he believed his military machine made him the master of history. But in the heavenly court, his case was already closed. The fall of Assyria was preloaded into the fabric of time before the first soldier ever crossed the border. The court then issues the sentence in verse 25.
I will break Assyria in my land, and upon my mountains I will trample him. Then his yoke shall be removed from them, and his burden removed from their shoulders.
God claims the land of Israel as his personal territory. He calls it my land and my mountains. When an enemy enters this jurisdiction, they enter a space with a spiritual immune system. The Holy Land operates with high-intensity rules that move to eject any foreign spirit of domination. This is exactly what happened to the ancient Assyrians. In a single night, as recorded in Isaiah 37, an angel struck down 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. The most powerful army on earth dissolved before morning. Sennacherib fled home, where he was assassinated by his own sons, leaving a fractured, chaotic remnant. Now look at the map of northern Israel today. The shoulder of the nation, the Galilee and the northern hills, has borne the yoke of the northern axis for decades. Isaiah's prophecy is a tactical guarantee that burden will be physically removed. As we see the instability spreading through the modern Syrian and Iranian power structures, we are watching the head of the axis being severed. The remnant is being trampled on the literal mountains Isaiah described. This becomes a universal decree in verse 26.
This is the plan that is planned for the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out over all the nations.
Isaiah pulls the lens back to reveal that Assyria is actually a test case. The ruling issued in the divine court now becomes a universal legal precedent. It applies to every empire that follows the same model of domination. Assyria was the first of the great imperial machines. Babylon would follow, then Persia, then Greece, then Rome. Each believed its dominance was permanent. Each eventually discovered the same truth. The hand of history belongs to someone else. Empires do not read Isaiah. That is why they keep making the same mistake. Today, the nations are learning what Isaiah already knew. For decades, the world sent envoys and passed resolutions and drew red lines in disappearing ink. The hand kept moving, rockets kept falling on the Galilee. And slowly, the global realization is arriving that no document has ever stopped a missile in flight. The hand stretched out is not waiting for another summit. It is the signature of a process already in motion, securing the high ground, clearing the launch sites, shutting down what diplomacy alone could not. The decree is then enforced, in verse 27.
For the Lord of hosts has purposed, and who will annul it? His hand is stretched out, and who will turn it back?
This is the theological exclamation point. Isaiah asks two rhetorical questions. Who can cancel the decree? Who can stop the execution of the sentence? The answer is no one. This is the realm of individual divine providence. No general or politician operates outside this plan. This certainty is meant to produce courage. If the outcome is guaranteed, our task is not to worry about survival, but to live with moral clarity. In our time, with supply lines fractured and the stranded Hezbollah remnant facing a collapsing support structure, we are watching this play out in real time. The missiles will stop. When the commander of the heavenly armies has purposed the end of a threat, no resupply or international resolution can annul that outcome. The hand is moving to shut down the launch sites permanently, and nothing is turning it back. The prophetic channel finally reopens in verse 28.
In the year that King Ahaz died was this oracle.
This looks like a timestamp, but it is actually the announcement that a spiritual blockage has been cleared. The prophecy couldn't come during the reign of King Ahaz because his faithlessness had spiritually jammed the prophetic channel. The word of God was backed up behind the dam of a faithless leader. The moment he is removed, the word pours through. Israel's enemies made a catastrophic miscalculation. They watched the death of Ahaz and celebrated, mistaking a leadership transition for a terminal collapse. They didn't see that God was clearing the way for King Hezekiah, a leader of extraordinary faith who would eventually take the Assyrian threats, spread them before the Lord, and witness a miracle. The modern echo is impossible to miss. The recent transition of leadership in the West was read by the Northern Axis as a window of vulnerability. They saw an Ahaz dying and calculated chaos. They did not understand that the spiritual blockage was being removed to make way for a new era of strength. The return required of us is not merely political, it is internal. The Ahaz we must examine is in our own hearts, the faithlessness and the cynicism. When that blockage is cleared, we stop being victims of history. We become participants in a divine purpose. Through the lens of Isaiah, we see that the spirit of Assyria never really dies. It just changes masks. It is a spiritual husk of domination that disguises itself in different empires throughout history. The shell changes shape across the centuries, but the emptiness inside it never does. The verdict from the heavenly court is already in. The oath of the Lord is unfolding in today's headlines. If we can remove the fear and the faithlessness from our own hearts, we discover that we were never victims of history. We were participants in a purpose decided before the first soldier ever crossed the border. Pride rises, power concentrates, violence spreads, nations gather, empires fall. The word of our God stands forever.